The comments, views, and opinions expressed in the podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of Point72 Academy. All information provided herein is for informational purposes only, is not investment advice, and should not be deemed as a recommendation to buy or sell securities. All investments involve risk, including the loss of principal. This podcast does not constitute an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to purchase any security or investment product. Any such offer or solicitation may only be made by means of delivery of an approved confidential offering memorandum. This podcast may not be copied, and it may not be distributed or furnished to or used by anyone other than the intended recipient without the express written consent of Point72.
In this episode, we're taking a closer look at the coveted opportunity that we offer students aspiring to be investors, the Point72 Academy Summer Internship. Each summer, we welcome a talented cohort of students from around the world and offer them a front row seat to the public markets and hedge fund industry. Joining us as our guests are 4 Academy summer interns and an Academy full-time associate who will share with you their experience at our firm and tips on how you can be a part of this exciting journey.
Hi guys, great to be here with all of you. My name's Daniel. I did the internship last summer and I returned full-time for the Academy, which I started this summer in July. I went to Cornell, studied applied economics, and happy to be here speaking with all of you, learning about your experiences during the internship. Could you start by telling me a little bit about yourselves and how you got interested in investing?
Okay, so hi, my name is Alex. I go to Columbia and I study computer science and do a concentration in art history. It's my senior year of high school. I started developing a sleep tech stuffed animal. And from there, I took a gap year where I actually worked inside of a startup and was able to work on automation of their billing structures as well as lead generation. So seeing how they're bringing customers in. And then when I came to Columbia, I decided to join one of the 3 student-run hedge funds. And from there, I just fell in love with looking at public markets and stocks.
Hi, my name is Aaron. I go to Caltech and I studied computer science and environmental science. Prior to this, I was a machine learning researcher at NASA, focusing on ocean sea level rise and building projects for the United Nations. But that research aspect really combined itself with sort of a love for just understanding the rise and fall of companies, what makes a business good, what makes a business bad, and how that's reflected in stock markets, and that's sort of what led me here today.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for taking the time. My name is Emily Warren. I'm a rising senior at MIT. I'm studying finance and computer science. I actually grew up in Hong Kong, lived there for 12 years, and now I'm from the Bay Area, California. I'd say I started investing when I was in high school. I joined this philanthropy and investment club, and I really enjoyed the weekly debates we would have about companies and their key drivers. And I guess that was also during COVID. For some portion, I was able to invest some of the money I'd made in previous work or job experiences and invest that in my personal portfolio. And it's been really great to learn more about the world through learning about companies.
Hi, Daniel. I'm Jarvis. I'm from University of Waterloo. I'm studying math, and I tried a few finance internships before. I did long only, I did private equity, but I think the more I learn about the whole industry, the more I'm more into hedge fund, long short, faster paced, steeper learning curve. So that's why I'm here.
So, how did you each hear about the Academy internship and what led you to apply?
So I already was aware Point72, they had a relationship with our student-run club on campus. And then I did the Diversity Accelerator last winter. And from there, I became more aware of the internship, and it kind of is a pipeline into this full-time summer internship.
I heard about this program from my mentor in my first job. He was trying to break into hedge fund, and I was asking, what if I just want to get into it out of school? And he's like, your best shot is Academy. That's why I'm here. Yeah.
So, how did you prepare for the application process and what was it like for each of you?
Yeah, so similar to Alex, where I went through the Future of Finance Accelerator, that application involved trying to model a company idea you would make if you could make your own startup. And then, we ended up pitching an entertainment company, which allowed the coaches to get an insight into kind of if we were passionate about the job and what our quantitative and qualitative skills were like. And then that led to a final round. And I guess for preparation, there were a couple of pitches that I'd done for my club before. So just really understanding the most recent trends on those companies in case the coaches wanted to ask about that. But it was really helpful to know that the real job is pretty similar to what happens in the application process.
Really what drew me in was sort of the interview process was incredibly interesting, starting from the essays and the case study. It felt very unique and very differentiated. So to that end, I tried to apply a slightly different view, I suppose, than sort of standard finance, standard hedge funds, where coming from my background of really intensive, deep research, plus a more quantitative background. So just thinking about things more creatively. And I mean, the application process doesn't require you to have a very deep, intimate knowledge of finance. And I think that really shone through.
What were you expecting from the summer internship, and how has that experience been?
I think having done the accelerator program, I was expecting something similar to that. And in a lot of ways, it has been. I think what was most surprising to me was on my team rotation, how they just embraced me. I never felt like an intern. I always felt like a member of the team. They let me go and sit on their daily morning calls where for 15 minutes you go on a Zoom and the PM kind of talks about what are the trends that you're seeing in the space right now. And then once a week, we have an hour-long meeting where we go through the book and seeing kind of different ways that they manage risk and really getting a full access pass what it means to really sit on a team. I don't know if you get that experience anywhere else, honestly.
I think my expectations were more oriented towards just pure learning. I didn't really know that much about the hedge fund industry. I didn't really know what to expect coming in. So it's just like, I wanted to learn everything about this industry. I want to learn if this is a suitable industry for me to go into. Is this a job I like to do? And to that end, it's been phenomenal in terms of just the sheer amount of learning that we managed to pack into these 8 weeks. Has just superseded all of my expectations.
Yeah, coming into this internship, I was also expecting that we would cover a wide range of industries and companies, which has definitely happened. I guess in certain ways, it has exceeded my expectations first on the mentorship side. So it was just really great to see how even like the academy coaches, they'll stay in touch with the analysts. And I guess once you reach the PM level, it was really surprising to learn how it's almost like managing your own business. It's very entrepreneurial in the way that they need to manage their own team, choose what analysts they want to hire. They also choose how they want to spend their money on what resources. And it was just, I'd never thought of that in a hedge fund, and especially in a company with a lot of infrastructure. So you have a lot of freedom to build out your own team, but you get all the resources such as market intelligence and others that Point72 provides you as well.
So I guess for me, it's really just in terms of investing, all my exposure I had before is long only thematic investing plus private equity investing. All of those, they have 2 to 5 year investment horizon at least. So I saw that's basically how investing works. But once I got into this firm, I received training, classroom materials, actual projects, the rotation works. I realized it's completely different. Right? It might start from thematic links, but it end up in very different places. And most importantly, during my conversations with my PM, my senior analyst, I realized it's not just a job of investing. It's also like managing risks, managing time, managing stress. So I guess that's the most surprising part. Also, like my biggest takeaway from this internship.
What kind of projects did you work on, and what impact did they have?
So I on my rotation, I primarily worked on a video game company. We basically just talk about what's been going on in the market, general stuff like how to manage a book, how to manage risk, how to invest, how to do pair trade, and more specifics around this like name I've been working on. It's been phenomenal because I pitched it to my PM at the last day, and we had a really intellectually honest debate around the name. He hasn't covered it for a while, but I've been like surprised how well he still like keep in touch, keep up to date with this whole market. So yeah, like it's been great.
For my specific PM rotation, I was looking at 2 players in the data center space and seeing what artificial intelligence, like the impact of that rising trend had on infrastructure companies. So that was what I focused on. The deliverable ended up being like an industry primer as well as 2 stock pitches and a discussion with my PM where he was able to ask me questions on the work I'd done. And that was a really fulfilling project because during that final pitch session with the PM, he was asking very genuine questions because he was considering whether or not to further explore this investment opportunity. And while I was working on these 2 companies, my analyst was also ramping on the same names. So it was really nice to have that collaboration with my analyst and learn from someone who has a decade more experience than me on how he goes about ramping on the company.
I think I really love the product that I put out on my team rotation. I'd never looked at semiconductors before, and I looked at a semis company. And I think I just got such incredible mentorship. I'm really excited the company's actually reporting next week, so I'll get to see if I was right. And I'm planning to do, at least for myself personally, a postmortem to kind of see where I went. But I think I learned so much about the space. My analyst would meet with me every day, and he had been looking at the space for 3 or 4 years now and was able to kind of guide me and where to go and where to push further. And I think also getting the opportunity to then pitch in front of my entire team, including my PM, and like other people said, kind of have a really candid debate about where do we think this is going. And yeah, I loved my team experience.
All right, so you guys are just starting your second academy pitch. How's that going so far?
So the second company that we're covering is in the healthcare industry, and I think a lot of people don't have domain expertise in healthcare coming in as an intern class. So I personally came in not knowing how to ever look at a healthcare company. So this project has really kind of demystified what it would be like to cover one. So definitely less fear towards that now. And I guess we have the earnings call later this afternoon. It's going to be really interesting having 40 students who are covering the company just listening to the same call. We're all going to come out with different perspectives on what happened. And there's a really unique opportunity to be able to have so many people like challenge your views and be in the same room with so many interns covering the same company.
Yeah, I mean, the second pitch really just shows you the importance of reps. There's a lot of coach guidance, but I didn't really feel the effects of that until the second pitch. And even though the second pitch is an entirely different industry, we went from like consumer tech now to healthcare, a lot of those same principles apply. And you can sort of see sort of the ethos of Academy and how it can easily translate to what your life will be like once you hit the desk.
Could you tell me a little bit more about the mentorship you've received from the coaches and analysts on the platform?
Yes, I've gotten incredible mentorship. I think I've gotten very lucky. My official mentor actually was on the same is on the like placed onto the same pod that I did my rotation on. So I actually got to spend a few weeks sitting next to her, which was incredible. And she also came from a CS background, not really having a finance background before this. So I think she has been really, really inspirational and motivational. And she's someone I really look up to and someone I want to be like, seeing that you can come from not having much experience, but still be very successful here. Additionally, the coaches are just incredible. The advice that they give you, as well as the way that they make you think and the questions that they raise, while they might feel challenging at the moment, are really, really interesting when you get a few more minutes to unpack them afterwards and the directions that they send you in.
I think this firm pitches itself as an ideas business, and ideas are ultimately from people. And this firm really invests a lot in the development of people, but I think more important than just the development of the talent around here, everyone here is genuinely nice. I think that's a really rare and valuable thing that sort of has allowed people to want to stick around.
Yeah, I received a lot of mentorship from my PM rotation team. My analyst I worked under, Vince, he was very instrumental in a lot of things that I learned. So I mentioned he was ramping on the same company at the same time. So every day at the end of the day after market close, we would talk for an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour about our findings from the day. And it was really cool to see how we'd spent like the same amount of time looking into different resources, and we'd come together to come up with a new insight and kind of what we would want to further explore the next day. Having those conversations were really helpful. And whenever you reach out to someone at a different part of the company, like not long short, they're super willing to interact with you and tell you about their job. I remember when we went to the Mets game for our first intern event, I met the head of the Asia long short segment, and he spent like an hour talking to me about his experience at the company, kind of gave me advice on the team that I was working on, and just it's crazy how much time people are willing to spend with you to invest in your experience here at Point 72.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. We have a class of 42, 43 interns this summer. The most important part, we sit together on the same floor, same section. Every time we have a question, we have a new exciting new finding, we just stand up and talk about it. We debate about it. We always like have new stuff coming out of the conversation afterwards. So that is really, really helpful. The coaches, we have one-on-one office hours. It's just amazing to see how they look at the company. Maybe they covered it before, maybe not, but either way, you get helpful angles or sought inputs.
What's been the most challenging part of the internship so far?
I would definitely say like time management is a huge critical part. You can spend months looking at a company and you still have infinite more time to research. So to think about like what rabbit holes that you want to avoid and what are the actual key drivers of the company was something that was really important to get close to.
What's been the best or most rewarding part of the internship experience?
I definitely say the most rewarding part has just been all the people that you meet. First off, with the intern class, everyone comes from different education backgrounds and with different majors and minors, and everyone has a different way of problem solving. So it's been really interesting to meet everyone and get to know them. And I think we'll all be in touch even after the internship ends. And then I guess even like on my PM rotation team, getting to know the analysts that worked on the team as well as the PM, every single interaction I had with them, it was just so interesting to hear them talk about stocks, even when you're like sitting at your desk and there's other PM teams around you and you hear discussions that happen on a consumer team, industrial and healthcare team. And it's just so inspiring how all these people have such a deep knowledge of the companies that they're covering. And so I guess the people side was really rewarding. And then on the project side, yeah, as I mentioned, the conversation I had with the PM at the end where I pitched to him and we had a really honest discussion about what key questions there were still left to research. And that was really rewarding.
Yeah, I think my most rewarding moment is probably the moment I received the invite to get on this podcast. And the second most rewarding moment is my short pitch with Academy Coach. She just stood up, walked out of the office, dragged another Academy associate in because he just pitched along. And then we had a live debate about it. I didn't receive any like extraordinary feedback from the coach right away, but I feel like just the that moment, the atmosphere where everybody just share their opinions, try to get the best out of each other, that's the most rewarding moment for me.
What did you enjoy about spending the summer in New York and working out of our Hudson Yards office?
I would say the office is in very great location in Hudson Yards. The view of the water is beautiful and you have the floor to ceiling windows, which is perfect because it lets in a lot of light, which helps you stay awake and stay energized throughout the day. It's a really cool environment to be in, and it's an open floor plan, so you can hear discussions that are happening on other PM teams, and I guess like all of us interns sitting in the same bullpen area, it's been really great for collaboration.
I think as someone who studies art history and really loves contemporary art, I don't know if you guys are aware, but Steve is one of the best art collectors. Like he's one of the top contemporary art collectors in the world. And this office has the most incredible and insane collection just wandering around every single corner. There is something that's just fabulous and amazing. And as someone that studies this, I would say that's been a big highlight for me, is just seeing his incredible collection.
Is there anything you read or listened to prepare for the internship that you'd recommend?
The Academy podcast has been really great. And specifically, there's one episode where Jamie, who runs the Academy, talks about the importance of summer internships as an opportunity to explore beyond the academic setting. And that really played a role in sort of selecting this internship and realizing, oh, I would sort of want to explore this path.
I read the Financial Times every morning. And I think that just being up to date on what's happening in the markets, what are the trends, who's reporting, who missed, who beat, and just kind of knowing what's happening genuinely, I think is really helpful, especially when it comes down to when you have to pick a stock to pitch or you just have to talk in general about an industry. I think really being up to date, and that's also what a lot of the Academy coaches are looking for, is a passion for the public markets and a love for the public markets. And I think a great way to show that is to be up to date with them.
Any parting advice for listeners of the podcast who might be considering applying to the internship?
I think the advice that I would give is this is going to be the hardest experience you are ever going to have. At least in my opinion, it was. But it is also the most rewarding and the biggest growth I've seen. I have not been this challenged at university. I've not been this challenged in high school or before. I think they challenged me and I learned so much about myself and what I'm passionate about and how to think about things that you're going to have to work hard, but it is 100,000,000% worth it.
Yeah, I mean, just the grit, the perseverance, the need to work hard to be able to succeed. I mean, in some sense, I would argue those are table stakes, but even going beyond that, staying true to who you are, bringing that passion, bringing that creativity, and ultimately that varied view to the table is what will allow you to succeed.
My advice to anyone listening to this podcast is really, as you're going through the application process, see if you even enjoy going through it. You'll be working on different case studies, going through a lot of discussions with academy coaches on the companies. And if you really enjoy having those types of debates and diving into different rabbit holes and trying to figure out what's happening in the financials of the company, then there's a high chance you'll like this job. So really use the application process as an early indicator on if you would actually want to do this job.
For anyone who's listening, my biggest advice is to subscribe to this channel right now. My second biggest advice is you have to know the difference between facts, consensus, and your own differentiated view. In this industry, it is all about differentiation. If you read something on paper, if you saw something from the news, it's probably already baked in. It's part of the consensus. All you need to do is build upon that basis, have something different, and express your view clearly and in a differentiated way, creative way, persuasive way. And that's my biggest advice.
Alex, Aaron, Emily, Jarvis, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Want to be a hedge fund analyst? Listen to our Point72 Academy podcast to hear from portfolio managers, analysts, and others on the ins and outs of this industry and learn how you can become a part of it. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.